what was it, though, in that moment that made you feel like you needed to move to something else? Getting too comfortable or not feeling challenged? Or what was it that made you feel like, hey, I'm ready to make a step?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the manager that I was under at that point, she would either probably need to retire or choose to go a different direction. That's really where I was. That was going to be the next step. And I didn't see that was going to happen. My team wasn't necessarily going to change. I was ready for a new challenge, but that opportunity just wasn't there. Yeah. And so I realized I want to stay in the tech space. That's where I am comfortable. I've always been in tech since Apple when I was 21. I knew that I wanted to work very closely still with leaders. Again, that has been very consistent throughout my whole career, is working no one between me and leadership. I want to be talking with them. I want to learn from them. I want to be in the room when they're making these decisions, even if I'm not yet influencing them. I want to make sure, influencing those big decisions, I want to make sure that I still am in the room when those decisions are being made, so I can really see how these companies are being formed and shaped. And so I knew that was my stepping stone or foundation, really, in terms of the filter that I was applying. So when I knew it was time to leave, I had a really good lens of what I wanted, and I cast a super wide net when it was time to move on. I think I applied to over 160 jobs.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm shameless about, get comfortable being told no.
Of course,
that
totally.
Life is full of no's. I call it a soft yes. But and lo and behold, I wound up where I am.
That's awesome. Yeah, I having these conversations with, leaders and entrepreneurs and all kinds of different people, that topic comes up a lot of like, if you don't try, like, you're not going to have an opportunity. A couple, like one other guest I had before said, if you don't ask, you're giving yourself the no.
Absolutely.
And I use the quote from Wayne Gretzky all the time of, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's like, you just have to try. And often the difference between people who make a certain path or not, it's like, well, if you go back through their journey, at what points did they try to do things that were either unlikely to happen or was uncomfortable to try? And it's those efforts that end up leading to pivots or angles that become something more than ordinary.
100%. And I think that goes back to where I was saying, ready is a decision, not a feeling. Because if you look back on, I think if you ask any leader, whether that's frankly a leader in your own home, mother or father, or a CEO of a global tech company, I think very rarely in life do we feel 100% ready, comfortable, equipped, well-rested enough to go and do the things that we're called to do. But I think if you feel called to do that, then you have a responsibility to step into that. And that's actually a big part of Treasure Valley Women in Tech. The other thing I would say about that too, though, the Wayne Gretzky quote as well, you miss shots that you don't take, is also don't close the door on yourself. That really rang true at Microsoft. I tell this story sometimes that when I was applying, the job description that some person in HR had written said that it was a fully on-site position in Redmond, Washington. And I was applying to this job from Eagle, Idaho. And I went through the entire interview process. The only people mentioning anything about the in-person portion of it was one of the people from HR. It was a very lengthy interview process with a lot of different cycles, but no one that I was actually talking with that I'd be working with was mentioning anything about this in-person thing. So I just kept moving along the process, not saying anything. And then finally we were down to the wire. They said that they were ready to make an offer. And the HR person that had kind of been just setting up these interviews with the leaders had kind of said, okay, we're down to the wire here. So are you and your husband going to be moving to Washington for this? Like, it's the rubber's going to meet the road here. Like, is this happening? Are you putting your house up for sale, relocating, everything, And I finally said, now that you mention that, I don't know if necessarily that is really something that I want to do. Is that super important to the leader that I'm working with in my team? And she said, I don't know, I'll have to check. So I actually ended up meeting with the team and having this conversation with them in full transparency. And the end of it was they don't even know how that the in-person requirement got put on the application. It didn't matter. Yeah. So that was a good reminder of it. Don't shut doors on yourself.
Oh no.
Just keep it going and see where things take you. And it could just be a clerical error that
Yeah, absolutely. Or even if it's not an error, like I tell people the same thing about positions where there's certain requirements on it, right? It has to have this degree and this many years experience and this many, it's like, no, it doesn't. No. Like so often you could bypass all of that. And a lot of it, I think, comes back to communication of like, if you are good at what you do, if you are confident, if you are good at communicating and you work on those skill sets, you could get past any requirement that is put on paper of a certain role or what someone's looking for. And often it's those things, and even seeing someone take the initiative and the steps to pitch, like put themselves in that seat is what people that are hiring actually look for in a person. They're like, I don't want to just see a resume that checks all the boxes. I want to see someone who's like convincing me of why they're the right person, even if it's not what's right on paper.
It's how you make them feel.
Yeah, totally.